I want to introduce you to Tahoe Tony, one of the top real estate agents on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe with EXP Luxury Real Estate. Tahoe Tony, thank you so much for joining. I know we've been friends for quite some time now. I know you're really great at what you do. Thanks for coming on.
That's my pleasure, Shay. I just want to say congratulations on being a new father.
Thank you.
You look pretty good for a guy who hasn't had any sleep.
Yeah, I know.
Very
I know.
impressive.
Thank you. Thanks to my wife. She sleeps all the time, or she lets me sleep all the time. So
it's a good wife. Well done.
Exactly. I outkicked my coverage for sure. So, yeah, thanks for coming on. I want to just dive into what you do. I know what you do, but I want other people to understand what you do. How you do it so well, and what they can expect if they were to work with you. So yeah, let's dive in. This past year or over your career, what have you been most proud of as a real estate agent?
Good question. One of the things I'm most proud of is I value relationships more than transactions. So if I meet somebody and I have the ability to help them, I'm going to build a relationship with that person so that I can find out as much about them as I can so that I can help them as much as possible. And I value that more than, I've had, 48 closed transactions last year. I think, no, I helped 48 people, achieve their dream home or move their family to a low tax state like Nevada. So I look at it that way, and not necessarily the numbers of transactions, but as that I'm building a relationship and I'm making a difference in people's lives. So that's what I value most.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have a process that you stick to help go deep in conversation with people, or do you let it just kind of flow naturally? Does it kind of just happen? You're obviously a super personable guy.
Thank you. So it took me a while to develop that, because when I first started real estate 27 years ago, I was working, very successful people moved to Incline Village. It's very common that these were business owners and multimillionaires and such. And so I wasn't saying that I was intimidated by them, but I didn't feel like I could add value to them. So like the first couple of years, I kind of struggled with that. So then I realized, wait a minute, these people are hiring me for my expertise. They want to hear from me. And so that's when I started adding value and helping people make decisions instead of just giving them information and waiting for them. And so that's when my career really started taking off, because the people who were coming here valued that, because most people don't live here full time. They've got a lot of other things going on. So when the real estate transaction happens, they want to get it done. And so it took me a while to learn to ask the right questions and let people know I work for them. What would you like? You want me to call you every day? I started doing this before texting and all that, so it's easier now. And well, it's actually more questions now. He's like, do you like to be text? Do you like to phone calls? Do you like emails? What's your preference? So I find out what people's preference are, what they're most comfortable with, what's going to make them happy, how many times they want to be contacted. And then I just trying to let it flow from there. When I show property, if I build rapport with people, I like to take them to lunch or dinner and get to know them better. So it's not just about the transactions, about getting to know them, how can I help them, and what I can do to help them.
That's great. Yeah, even diving into the minute details of, hey, how do you want to be communicated with? That, yeah, I love that. That's so important.
Little details like, do they have a dog?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this house, there's no yard, so you're going to have a tough time having your dog. You're going to have to, take your dog out for a walk every time he wants to go to the bathroom. That's not going to be what I consider the best Tahoe lifestyle, because it's about relaxing, having fun, enjoying it, and having to get up to take your dog out versus having a yard. Little things like that make a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the things that you're so good at is, diving deep. Even I know with me working with you in the past, it's been really easy to talk to you and you're easy to work with. So I know you're adding a ton of value to people. How do you add that value? What are some things you do to add that value other than just, other than the conversations and the dinners maybe, or the lunches or the coffees, right? Getting to know people. What are some things that you're doing on the back end that people may not realize unless they're a real estate agent? What are you doing to add value when no one's looking?
Another great question. Thank you. Again, when I first started, I took pride in not telling people how much work I was doing because I just wanted to get it done. And now I send them reports. So if they don't care, they need to look at it, they don't. But it's very important to know all of the different neighborhoods, know what's going on in those neighborhoods, if there's any changes, if there's any problems with utilities in that neighborhood, the different condominium associations, some that allow short-term rentals, some don't, some that have allowed them, but there's more new people on the board and they're probably going to be changing that in the next 12 months. That's something somebody would like to know. So knowing the community and being an expert in the community is very important. And I think that's something that some agents don't value as much as I do, because I want to be an expert for my clients. Another thing is I take great pride in running a great escrow, and I do my best to stay on top of the escrow so that I don't wait until a problem becomes a giant avalanche. I want to catch it when it's a little snowball and it can be stopped, it can be fixed, and keep everybody moving smoothly in the escrow. Because if you start an escrow and there's a little fight, then everybody's incredibly defensive the entire escrow, and that's a super big challenge for everybody, and nobody's going to be helped. Versus if there's a little problem, you take care of it, you make sure everybody's happy, then you're going to have a much smoother escrow, and it's going to be a lot smoother transaction. So all the little things I do, I mean, I've got a whole list when I do a listing presentation. It's probably about 30 different things of all things I do, all the marketing, all the, to get the property in escrow, all the prep work for your house. Hiring professional photographers is big, because one of the key things I've seen in 27 years of real estate, it used to be about exposure, because you would want to get in a big office because we didn't have the internet, and you would do print
It's word of
advertising.
mouth, right? You're just talking to other agents, right?
Just talking to other agents. We had a big MLS meeting. You'd print out flyers and you'd go to the tables and pick up the flyers for your clients. So it was different time of work. Now presentation is so important because it's easy to get exposure, especially if you work with a good agent like me. I get a lot of exposure. So you want to make sure that presentation is important. And the first impression is usually the most important, because people are going to be swiping. They look at the house. If it doesn't look good, they don't go back. Or if they see it again, they won't even open up to look at the photos
100%,
inside.
100%.
So all those little details add up to a lot. That makes a big difference when you add up all those little things. And some people focus on just a few things, and I like to focus on all the things that's going to make a big difference, because, even 1% doing something that's going to make a 1% difference, you add up, you do 10 or 20 of those, a 20% difference on a $3 million house. That's a lot of money.
Absolutely. And I always like to talk about it. It's what business are you truly in as an agent? I'm on the lending side, but I understand marketing and sales, and it's really a marketing and sales business. When you're hiring an agent, not only are you hiring expertise such as yourself with that depth and knowledge that you have, but you're also hiring an expert marketer that knows how to market real estate. And I always equate it to packaging on the shelf, right? Like you said, the first look people get at a property, whether it's the first photo on Zillow or whether it's typically how it is, right? The first photo on Zillow. If it's not eye-catching, nicely, well done, first impression's gone. You may never get that person to click ever again.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I've seen flyers and photos for properties in July, and there's still a ton of snow around now. It's because the listing agent has not updated those photos to what the yard looks like in the summertime. So you're looking at a house in August, and you're looking online, and the pictures show a bunch of snow in the house, and that just, you can't have that.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
It's a shame when somebody lets that happen.
Yeah,
because they're doing a disservice to their seller.
Yeah.
And they're hiring us for our service, and it makes me laugh in a sad kind of way.
Being able to pinpoint that and adjust, and clearly explain the value that you're going to add by avoiding those types of situations is highly valuable. So, for somebody looking to buy on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe that hasn't yet, what would you want to say to them, and given this current market?
Interesting question. It's real interesting when you look at real estate from a long perspective of like 3 decades. You look at the real estate values, property values have appreciated quite well I don't know the exact numbers. Depends on, some people say it's this much, some people say it's that much, but it's usually better than like the stock market does. So if you look at real estate as an investment you can use. So that's what I like, because like, if you own a bunch of Apple stock or a bunch of Nvidia stock or something, it's great. It's appreciating. It's going up in value. Your wealth is building, but you can't really use it. You can't take your family there for the weekend.
You can't paint it.
You can't.
You can't landscape it.
You can't raise a family there. So I look at real estate not just as, we need a house, but it's also an investment. So with our current market, we've had a lot of changes in the last few years. We had a hyper market in 21, 22, and then 23. Changes started happening. 24 was bad. 25 is off to a slow start. The stock market crashed. The stock market's come back now. So a lot of buyers are a little hesitant right now, and there isn't any sense of urgency, and they're very cautious, I think is probably a good word. But if you look at real estate as an investment, maybe it might go down, might go up, but all in all, it's going to go up over time. So it's a good investment overall, as long as you don't buy when it's too high. But it's interesting because I was at a conference and they were talking about the interest rates and such, and there was a stat that I heard that when the Fed lowered the interest rates in years past, when the interest rates were higher and they lowered them 1 point, 500,000 buyers entered the marketplace. And when you talk about adding value, one of the toughest times I had in real estate was when we had multiple offers on every property in 21 and 22. And people would ask me, how much should we offer? And I didn't know, because I always like to have the answers. And I didn't know, because I didn't know how many people were presenting offers. I didn't know how many people were offering over asking price. So it was a very challenging time for me, because I didn't feel like I was helping my buyers enough. And I felt bad. And when I had a listing, I felt bad, because I had to call up 10 or 15 other realtors and say, so sorry, your folks didn't get the property. So it wasn't a fun time. So I would recommend to buyers right now who are on the fence, and this is end of July 2025, things can change next month or next quarter, whatever, next year. But as of right now, I would buy now, because we have more inventory than we've had in over 5 or 6 years. Our inventory is higher than it has been in the last 5 or 6 years. So you have more options as a buyer. The interest rates are higher. A lot of my clients are paying cash, so they don't worry about that as long as the stock market's up. But if you are financing, everybody is under the impression interest rates are going to go down. Our economy's doing well. Things are in control. What's going on with the Fed and the president and all that, I'm not an expert in all that, so I don't want to talk about that. But I do know the Fed chairman has less than a year left on his term. So if changes don't happen within the next 3 quarters, they're definitely going to happen next year. So if I was a buyer, I would buy now and just get some kind of program. Maybe you could help people with this, Shay, since you're such a great lender. A program where, hey, look, if I refinance this in the next 12 months, can I get, use the same appraisal or get lower fees or something like that? So I would recommend people buy now, because we have more inventory now. And if the Fed does end up lowering rates, now you're going to be competing with possibly 500,000 more buyers. So you're going to go back to these multiple offer situations where you're paying way over the asking price, or you're not getting any repairs done, you're not having any contingencies, and so you're risking a lot, because you don't know if the house is falling down or whatever. So I would recommend somebody buy now. I don't see the property values going down. There's been some price reductions in our towns, but it's properties that were already overpriced. The properties that are priced well are selling. The properties that are overpriced are sitting. Some of those are selling. So I don't think you're going to get ripped off like, oh, this is the peak of the market, like this is the high end of the market. I think that you're getting your value now, and you're going to get your value. So I would recommend somebody buy now, and just be prepared if they do get a loan that they can refinance in the next 12 to 18 months and get a lock in a long-term rate that's going to be comfortable for them.
Yep. And we've had the conversations with a lot of people. If you can afford the payment now, I know it might be a little bit of a stretch for some people. I agree. I would go ahead, because there's so much pent up buyer demand waiting for rates to drop.
That's great.
That's
I
the
like
talk
that.
of the town,
so if you can
right?
afford it now, you're
if
going to
you
get a better deal later when the rates go down. But
rates
you've got
are going to go
house.
down, and in theory, when rates go down, demand increases,
Mhm.
which then what does that do to prices?
Makes the house you already own is going to be that much more valuable.
Correct. And the cool thing of it is, though, you'll get to refinance on the way down with interest rates. And yeah, of course, we can do a no-cost refinance, no problem. We do those all the time.
Okay.
So
That's great.
we lower your rate. We take off, we take dollars off your monthly payment, and it's a win-win. So
That's great. And now if your house worth 10 or 15% more than what you paid for it,
yeah.
you might be able to
The key, though,
get rid of your PMI and all that. So
the key, though, is being able to afford the payments now.
That's what's important.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. If you can, and I know you deal with a lot of cash buyers too, so a lot of it, that doesn't necessarily come into play. But if you do need a mortgage, it's all about affording it now and doing what it takes, especially for, let's say, a first-time home buyer, just doing what it takes to get into the home.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not eating out as much. Maybe that's selling the vehicle that has a high payment on it and getting something that has half as much of a monthly payment on it, right? To just make it work for the short term until things start to turn around for you. And when I say things turn around, I mean rates to drop and refinance and
and
things start to
hopefully
balance out.
in the next few years you're making more money.
Correct.
As somebody either has a business or whatever. So that's really interesting because one of the fun things about my job is I get to work with so many successful people and hearing their stories. Again, going back, having relations with people. I remember this one couple, they were multimillionaires. And the wife was telling about the first time they bought a house, their mortgage payment, I think it was $600. This is probably 30, 40 years ago. And it was so much money. She was so scared and she got her utility bill and she immediately turned all the lights off. So her husband came home from work and he's like, "What's going on? Why are the lights off?" She goes, "Look at our utility bills. We can't afford this." And like you said, they cut back on a few things. They obviously afforded it. They kept it going. They raised a family, and now they own several homes. And so it's a success story. But it's just so funny when you talk about what people are willing to do to build that wealth, to create that. And now they own several homes because they have a few kids. So when they pass, they're going to be able to leave a home to each kid. So they're very happy that they were able to make those small sacrifices of not eating out so much and doing whatever it took to get that done and then build on that, which I hope people are doing now. I don't get that feeling from social media and stuff, but I know some people are doing it. I wish more people were doing that.
It's such a similar, it's such a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. There are a lot of people. I would challenge you on that. I would say there are a lot of young people.
Right. So, I mean, I'm in the luxury market. I'm not working with them.
Correct. Yep.
So I'm not in any spot to say that. So go ahead, tell me, please.
There's a lot of young,
I would love to hear.
There's a lot of young, hardworking people. You just tend not to see them. They're not the ones boasting, bragging about it.
Great. I love it. That makes me happy.
Yeah. There's a lot of solid people out there. But I do want to touch on a similar story that you have. So we have, they're now close friends of ours, but I did a refinance transaction with them, just closed about a week and a half ago. And I sat down and had coffee with them, and they're telling me the story about when they bought their first home. It was in Sacramento. They weren't making, certainly not the money they do now. They now have a home here in Incline that was paid off. They refinanced to pay off a margin loan. Smart money move, right? Mm-hmm. Smart money move, Pink. Let's point that out. But yeah, they were telling me the story about how when they bought their first home, it was so stressful. It was so difficult for them to make the payments. They would actually, for fun, they would take their kids to the dollar store and they would all pull from a hat a number, 2 numbers actually. And it was whatever the first number was, it was which aisle they had to go to in the dollar store. And then whichever the second number was is how many steps down that aisle they had to take. They then had to stop there and turn around and pick something off the shelf. And whoever brought back the coolest item for the day, they won. It was like $1 or $5 or something. But they were talking about this story and they were asking their kids, what's the fondest memory you have of childhood? And the kids told the story of, I remember when we would go to the dollar store and we'd play that game. But it all brings it back to like now that they're later in life, they're doing great. And those struggles have passed. That was, that storm passed, right? Mm-hmm. It was a short-term sacrifice, even though in the moment it seemed like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this work?
They lost
But
a little bit of sleep over it, I'm sure.
they lost a
But
lot
now,
of sleep. They told
hopefully
me
they're
they
sleeping
lost a
like
lot of sleep.
babies. Yeah.
But I told them, I was like, people need to hear this story because people a lot, especially here in Tahoe, they see the very successful
So
people.
now you have another idea for a podcast.
Right. They see ultra successful people and they're like, people just assume that they don't see the years and years and years and years of stress and just working, sticking with it to get to that point. And there's so many cool stories from a lot of great people that are told. So anyways, that's a little bit of a side tangent.
No, I love it. It's great. And, when you're around a lot of successful people like this, like you are here in this town, you hear those stories and it's neat because they didn't start. It wasn't given to them.
No.
Very few people who live in this town had their money given to them. Most of them earned it, providing a service, whatever they did. I just sold a house to an attorney who specializes in on people who rip off the government. He sues for the people who are ripping off the government, whether they're ripping off Medicaid or whatever it is, some government program. And then he also his passion is helping elderly people who are getting ripped off by predators, scammers.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So that's his real passion. He makes money doing the other one. His real passion of that. And so it's just so neat to meet these people. And he has a family. Daughter works at a nonprofit, and his two sons one of them just graduated from law school, is getting ready to take the bar, and the other one's getting ready to finish up. So passing on this legacy like that, it's neat. And he had a nice townhome here, and bought a nice big house.
That's great.
And I'm just like, that's great. Here he is doing this to give back to the community while helping the elderly people, and then protecting the government who's getting ripped off by people. So neat.
Yeah.
Another neat person.
Yeah. So many cool stories and so many great people. And I will go to the grave saying that. So many great people. So yeah, we talked a little bit about buyers in this current market, what you would say to them. What would you want to tell sellers in this current market? Specifically
sellers.
on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe.
Exactly. I would say be patient. I'm working with two sellers right now. Their property's been on for quite, not even up to the average yet. Our average is about 6 months to sell a house right now. So not even at the 6 month point. But both of them said, I'm not want to lower my price anymore. I'll just wait it out. And that's one of the challenges we have here in this town is most of the people here are wealthy. They don't have to sell. They want to sell them. It's going to simplify their life, or they want to, like my other clients, they want to buy a bigger place, whatever. So that's why they're selling. But most of them don't have to. So what I would say to the other sellers is, first of all, hire an agent who really cares about selling your property. That's so important, because some agents, they'll get a listing and they'll put in the MLS, and it's like a Don Juan type situation. They just love them and wait for somebody to bring them an offer. Whereas in this kind of market, you need somebody who's going to market your property.
You need boots on the ground. You need someone in the trenches every day. Yeah.
Someone in the trenches, someone getting it done. Someone knows how to do it. I'm with eXp Luxury. We're worldwide. If you list with eXp Luxury, you're going to get in your house property advertised in over 30 of the top reports, like the Robb Report, Wall Street Journal, all these Barron's, all these top places where really wealthy people go all around the world. So you're getting a lot of exposure, which is important outside of the local area. So that's important. And another thing that, obviously be patient, hire a great realtor, somebody who really cares, someone who's got the good marketing, because there's a difference between marketing and sales. I mean, there's a really good meme I'll send to you where there's like a guy hitchhiking with a sign that says, trying to get to Flagstaff, right? And you're like, okay, maybe I will, maybe I won't pick that up. I don't know. And then they show the same guy, and they replace the words on his cardboard. It says, trying to get to my grandmother's house. She's on her deathbed.
Yeah.
Now that's marketing, right?
Yeah.
That's a big difference between got to go to Flagstaff. Somebody's going to stop that guy so we can get to grandma's house before she passes away. That's the kind of marketing I like to do. I like to get your house out there, get it in front of people, and show them what the benefit is. So what I would say to sellers is, first of all, is be patient. It's going to take a while, especially at our prices. Not everybody can afford our prices. We've got a small group of people in the world who can afford to buy here in Incline Village. So you need to be patient. I work with people, agents, I help and coach them in Reno and different areas. And if a house sits for more than 30 days, they're like dropping the price in half because they're like, it's not selling. We're here, it's 6 months to sell a house. So let people know, especially like if this is their second home and they're not used to this market, let her know it's going to take a while, but it's worth it. You'll get a good price. If you get a good real estate agent who's going to work hard to get your house sold, do a lot of marketing, that's what you need.
Yep. That's great. So you add value by doing quite a few different things. You explain how you're going to market. You explain how the actual tactical things you're going to do when you go to a listing presentation and when you go to a buyer consultation. What's important for people to know when it comes to how you serve them within the local market? How does the knowledge that you bring and the expertise that you bring to the local market on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe benefit somebody that you're going to work with?
Well, like I talked about before, knowing the communities, knowing what's going on in the community, knowing, for instance, if you buy a house up on the top in Incline Village or over on State Line up on top of Kingsbury or Incline Village up in Jennifer, you're going to get a lot of snow up there.
Yeah.
And so you're going to want a driveway that isn't real steep, and you're going to want to make sure the garage doesn't shed the snow right in your driveway. I was talking to some clients just last week at a dinner party, and they had a house. This before they knew me, they bought a house, and the snow dumped right on the driveway. So they would shovel their driveway
every day.
Everything would be good. And then later that day when the sun came out, warmed things up, you hear whoop, and there'd be a big old mound of snow all packed really hard and everything. And they have to go try and shovel it. And it was annoying and it was dangerous because if somebody was under there, that could hurt somebody. So knowing little things like that, like I point those out. I let people know I've been here for over 30 something years. So I know I've seen light winters, big winters, dry winters, wet winters, whatever. And so it all adds up, makes a difference. And so knowing what's going on, being an expert in the community makes a big difference. And so that's, I think, one of the key values that I add.
So when it comes to HOAs in town, I know those are a big contingency for a lot of people, both buyers and sellers. How do you go about navigating HOA boards, HOA rules and regulations, different condo complexes, things of that nature?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, HOAs, for people who don't know, stands for Homeowners Association. And all the condos have an HOA because if you're owning a condominium, you own basically the inside of your unit and then like 1% of the rest of the association. So if there's 200 owners, you'll own your footprint of your unit and then 1/200 of the property. And so the association is responsible for taking care of all the building maintenance, and different associations have different rules. Some of them take care of the outside maintenance, some of them don't. Some of them leave that up to the homeowners. And so knowing all these things at different associations, which ones are good, which ones are bad, makes a big difference. Knowing which ones are frugal with our money, not too frugal. Sometimes they don't do any work and then they wait until all the paint's peeling off and then they have to come in and spend more money to fix it up versus those who do a good job of running it and take care of everything. And then insurance, the HOA takes care of the insurance. So knowing what's going on with those condominiums, having experience. Like, for instance, I just had a deal fall out of escrow because the people were using an out-of-town lender. So I highly recommend you use lenders from the area, like Shay and Brian. They do a great job because they understand the area. And this guy the lender had on his website, I'm licensed in 48 states. And I'm thinking, how can you be serving people in 48 states? You don't know all the rules and regulations of all those little areas. So it's pretty important if you're working here to have a local lender, and then for appraisals too. Like I had one time where I was representing the seller, and so the buyer's lender hired an appraiser who wasn't even a member of our MLS, so he didn't even have access to our current sales. He was using sales from Truckee and the California side, which are completely different from this property was in Crystal Bay, Nevada. And I was like, how can you even, where's your integrity? You don't have the right comps. And it held up. It didn't have the right comps. So it held up the buying of this property until they got an appraiser who knew the area, had access to all the comps. And it was just like, how can you charge money for that when you don't even have access to all the tools to do a right job? So hiring local people is very important because they know the area and they know what's going on. And so that's an important thing when you're working with the HOAs, is you work with a local lender who knows the HOAs and knows what's going on. And then you work with a realtor who's been around a while. They know which associations do a good job and which ones have had checkered past, I guess is a good way of saying it, where
Yeah.
you're shocked to hear what happened after you hear of somebody who bought something and then to find out that the HOA is upside down and has all these challenges. So it's good to work with a realtor who knows that. You do get to see all that paperwork inside and during the escrow. But if you know that before you go in and have an idea that you don't waste your time doing that, it helps.
Yeah, certainly. Do you mind if I touch a little bit on what we see on the lending side as far as HOAs go, and why I want to expand on why it helps to use a local lender like us?
I would love to hear more.
We've seen so many times where you're right, and it's an out of area lender. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of places in this country where you can live in one area and do a loan on another area, right? But here in Tahoe specifically, and in other vacation destinations, properties, there's no property that is the same.
Mm-hmm.
There might be, but there's so many nuances to every single property, whether it's a single family home, whether it's condo associations, whether it's HOAs. So a lot of what we manage on our end as a local lender is we manage the process of getting the HOA certified. That was good. I thought you were about to rip a sneeze. We manage the process of getting HOA certified. We manage the process of ensuring, the insurance on the property is good, right? Which can be a struggle as well.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially knowing, we have conversations every single day in this market with agents, with buyers, with everybody involved in a transaction. We have ongoing conversations every single day about how to problem solve through these things. That's something an out of area lender doesn't do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they can do it. There's no way they can do it. And nothing against out of area lenders. It's just so nuanced in this area that, you ask any agent in town, the nightmare stories from out of area lenders. I just go on and on and on and on. And yeah, every now and then they'll get it done. But, especially if the local lender can match the terms on the loan, like why not go with the local lender? Why not? It just makes all the sense in the world. They're going to save you time. They're going to save you headache. They're going to get the deal done for you quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And being local, do you know how much of our reputation is on the line every single transaction?
Great
We
point.
can't just throw our hands up in the air and say, sorry, can't get it done.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? No one would send us business ever again, right? So we fight tooth and nail for the buyer to make sure it gets done. And I think that's a story that's not told enough.
That's important.
Selfishly, but so thanks for letting me tell it.
My pleasure.
So yeah, you're an agent, you're helping buyers and sellers. How do you assemble a team of vendors? What do you look for when doing that? Do you have certain, contractors that that you work with, and do you have certain insurance agents and things like? Do you mind diving?
So what I can do is I can recommend a few people to my clients. If I recommend just one person, and something goes wrong, I can be held liable for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I have a big list of vendors where I have more than just one available. So I can give people a choice of vendors and people who I believe in, who I've worked with in the past. So I feel good about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can refer them to my clients. And that's important because what I've seen over the years is a new contractor comes into town, or a young guy gets his license, or a young lady gets her license and she's doing this and she's working hard and she's working really hard to get a good reputation. And then they start getting a good reputation. And next thing you know, they're doing a lakefront house and they don't answer the phone anymore because they're too busy for the next 2 years. So you're just in this process of continuously finding good qualified people to take care of it, because they either get really good and move on to the next stage, or they leave the area for whatever reason. So it's a constant process to have well-qualified vendors. So that's one of the things I keep up on. And always talking to people. I love talking to people and finding out, who's doing this, where my office is. is a it's commercial floor space down below and residential above. And so I see contractors walking through all the time, and I'll meet them. I'll get their card, and I'll go look at their work and see how, often they're showing up. They're showing up every day. That's a good contractor. If they're showing up once a week, that's somebody I don't want to recommend for my clients.
Yeah, certainly. It's great that you pay attention to that. So when it comes to working with vendors, communicating with them, recommending them, et cetera, what do you expect from a vendor?
Communication is probably the biggest thing. And that's one of the things that it's so easy to communicate nowadays, especially with the text message. You can just I'll be there tomorrow, or I have two guys working on the job, or I'm waiting for materials. As soon as they come in, I'll let you know, and we're going to bust out your house or whatever. So communication is probably the biggest thing. If someone can't communicate with me as a vendor, I'm not going to refer them to any of my clients because like we talked about earlier, most of the people aren't living here in town, and they want to make sure that this is getting done while they're not there. I remember years ago, my wife and I lived in a house over on Tyner, and we got new neighbors. They bought the property, and they wanted to have the house remodeled because it was from like the 1970s. And they were coming up Thanksgiving Day, and their contractor told them everything's ready to go. And they pull up, and they see their toilet in the garage. They can't park their car because there's a toilet there. The toilet that was supposed to be installed, that was the contractor said was installed. So here they came up for Thanksgiving weekend, and they have no toilets in the house. Ouch,
no,
right?
Not a single toilet.
Yeah, exactly. So,
toilet.
and the house was supposed to be done, right?
Wow.
So it's just little things like that make a big difference on somebody's life. Had they known the house wasn't done, they wouldn't have come up for Thanksgiving.
Right.
It was that simple as, hey, sorry, wasn't able to get it done. But the guy never communicated, and so they suffered.
We like to call that a no Thanksgiving. No thanks.
Good one.
Well, yeah, thanks again for joining me here. I really appreciate the deep dive into what you do. Who should contact you, and when should they contact you?
I tell people that kind of one of the things I say, like whether you're looking at a property in 6 days, 6 months, or even 16 months, reach out to me. It's a different kind of market here. And so you want to follow it. And if you've got questions about different neighborhoods, like why is this one more expensive than this one? And they look the same. Well, it could be little things like elevation or whatever. So there's, or this neighborhood doesn't have access to it, the incline beaches, whatever it is. There's all these different nuances like you mentioned earlier. So I think people should reach out to me when they start looking. I'm not going to be calling you all the time, tell you to buy. If you tell me, like I just got a letter from a guy, an email from a guy. He's like, hey, I have a 6-year plan. I'm going to be selling my business. I want to be moving there in 6 years. I don't want to bother you. But I'm like, look here, let me help you. Let me show you, give you an idea. He gave me an idea what he wanted. It's like, this is where you want to look for that type of situation. And now he's going to look. I'm not going to be calling him, Rick, you ready to buy now? You ready to buy now?
Right.
Like the little kid, are we there? Are we there? Are we there? Riding in the car? I'm not doing that. But I want to help people because I don't want you to waste your time looking in the wrong area. And then 6 years later, you have to start all over. So reach out to me when you have some questions. I'll give you some guidance, provide some value. And then when you're ready, let me know. But most people contact me probably when they're like a month to 6 months out is what I most see. And again, it's important to realize most people, this is a second home. They don't need to live here. A lot of people I work with are looking for Nevada tax, looking for Nevada residency for tax purposes.
Correct.
So I get a lot of that. And I created this great report that shows a comparison between California and Nevada, how much you could save on all your taxes, from your property taxes to your income taxes, to sales tax, everything. So it's a pretty comprehensive report. It really shows how much it costs to live in California versus Nevada. So the type of person I love to work with, somebody who is honest, somebody who's comfortable telling me what they want. Because some people, I worked with one lady and she's like, she was a dog walker. And she was always watching dogs. She goes, I want a small house up on the hill because she didn't have a lot of money. I want a small house up on the hill with a big yard so I could put the dogs back there. I'm like, okay. So I started looking for her. And next thing you know, she goes, I found my property. I'm like, where is it? Because I couldn't find any small houses in her price range with a yard. And she goes, it's down on Lakeshore Boulevard. It's a 1-bedroom condo, no yard, no nothing. And I was like, okay, that's completely opposite of what you told me to look for you. So if people just let me know what they want and keep me updated, that's helpful. And then I love people who want to come here and enjoy this great town. Like I had one family, they came from the Bay Area in California. and they had 2 young boys who were just playing video games all the time and such, and they weren't blossoming yet. And they were concerned, and they moved here to Incline Village, and their kids started getting involved in outdoor activities.
That's great.
One joined the sailing team. They're both on the ski team. One was hiking. Then they started fishing. And it was like 3 years later, I was having lunch with them, keeping up the relationship going. I'm like, how's it going? They're like, well, I tell you, our kids are doing great. They told me all the things they're doing. And then the mom goes, but I tell you, I kind of miss when they were just playing video games all the time because I'm just driving them back and forth everywhere. And when they were just playing video games, it was really easy. She goes, but I'm very proud, but I do miss those afternoons myself.
That's funny.
So it's a blessing. But it does come with a cost. But I see that a lot. There's so much great, fun, healthy things to do here in Tahoe. People move here, and every now and then someone hates it and they move away, and I feel bad for them. But if they're not happy, I don't want them to have a property here. But most of the people come here and they love it. They get outdoors, they enjoy it. It's so easy to be healthier here than in the city.
Yeah. Oh yeah, certainly. All right. So you mentioned you have a guide or a worksheet that'll show people how much they're going to save if they move here from California. Is that right? Where can people get that?
You can go to TahoeTony.com or TahoeTonyRE.com. And it's called the, what's it called now? Hold on.
Is there a link to
Nevada tax here? There's a link.
Is there a / like TahoeTony.com /
No, there isn't, but there will be.
You should. All right, let's do this. We're going to make it up now. TahoeTony.com / taxes.
Tax comparison.
TahoeTony.com / tax comparison.
Thank you.
You heard it here first.
Thank you.
And so if you're interested in how much you can save moving, is it specifically from California to Nevada?
Yeah, I have one for California to Nevada right now. But
okay.
If you're in another state, I can make one for that state too.
Free guide. If you're interested in seeing how much you can save in taxes given your income level moving from California to Nevada, go download the guide at TahoeTony.com / tax comparison. And then how can people contact you? If they want to talk to you now, they're looking to get information, straight from the source.
All my contact information is TahoeTony.com.
TahoeTony.com. That's TahoeTony.com. Tahoe Tony, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Shay.
Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
We'll see you soon.